.ny.
To bring in your council member, Elizabeth Crawley. And your mayor, Bill Deblasio. All right, so I'd like to invite Kayla Pizzatola to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Kayla. So I'd like to thank our host this evening, PSIS 113, Alejandro Millas, Principal. Thank you. And our co-sponsors this evening, Community Board 5, District Manager Gary Giardina, and Chairman Vincent Arcuri. And also we're joined by the Chair of Community Board 2, Denise Kean-Smith, and the Chair of Community Board 9, Raj Rampersad. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. So I'd like to invite up your Borough President, Melinda Katz, to give us some brief greetings. Borough President Katz.
Good evening. Good evening. Come on, we're from Queens. Come on. So I want to thank PSIS 113 for hosting tonight and for all the work they do on behalf of our children. We do want to thank our mayor and our councilwoman, but first I'd like to thank our community boards for the great work that they do. Denise is here, and Vinny's here, and Raj is here, and the community boards are great partners when it comes to what's going on in the communities, as are our police precincts. I know we have the 104th and all of the Queens North and South and everyone in the New York City Police Department. And let's of course be honest, if we're talking about the police department in this neighborhood, and we gotta say thanks to the G-Cops for doing all the work that you do. And I would like to take this moment to thank your councilwoman for the great work that she has done on behalf of this community for 9 years. 9 years. We have, the Councilwoman Crowley and I have done many things together, and I am proud of all of the work that we have done on all the parks in this community. I'm proud of the work that we have done in the schools in this community. I'm proud of the millions in double digits that she has brought home to this neighborhood each and every single year of her 9 years. And that is an amazing accomplishment. And the councilwoman is to be thanked for her great work. But most of all, Councilwoman, thank you for your public service. It will be remembered forever. Congratulations on your future. And we also have here our mayor, Mayor Bill Deblasio. Now, I said before, Mr. Mayor, you've been to so many town hall meetings in the borough of Queens. I am the borough president already. You can't run from my seat. I wonder sometimes, because he's done so many town hall meetings in Queens, because he is here all the time, he has done great things for this borough. He also knows he has tough questions to ask that are going to be asked of him. And he comes here tonight prepared to answer them. He comes here with all of his commissioners prepared to answer all of our questions. But Elizabeth and I would not have been able to do what we do without the support of the mayor of the city of New York. The Vietnam Veterans Memorial, great example. That is going into Elmhurst Park because this mayor finally allowed it to go into the park. I couldn't get it in under the previous administration. And so the Vietnam veterans will be honored every single day in the future in Elmhurst Park. And Mr. Mayor, thank you for that. We also have pre-K. Give it up for the Vietnam vets, come on. We also have 4-year-old pre-K, which is an amazing accomplishment for this administration. Amazing accomplishment for this administration. Everyone said it couldn't be done. He did it. And so I'm very proud of those accomplishments, and I'm going to leave you with this. This is someone who did a lot of town hall meetings prior to the election. Could have easily said after the election, you know what, I'm not doing anymore. I have 4 years, I'm in office, I'm not doing any more town hall meetings. And he insisted on coming back to Community Board 5 and in this council district to do this town hall meeting before December 31st. So ask the tough questions, he will answer them. But also, we know that Queens knows how to be respectful, so I'm excited. And please, I'm going to end with this. I have knee surgery tomorrow, so if you see me limping around, that's why. But I wanted to be here tonight just to top this off. So to Mr. Mayor, congratulations on this evening.
Thank you, Borough President Katz. Now I'd like to hand the mic over to your council member, Elizabeth Crawley.
Thank you, Marco. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I want to thank our host, PSIS 113, Principal Mahias, and the entire school community for allowing us to have this town hall together. Of course, a big thank you for the mayor for being here. We know he has a very busy schedule, and we're going to have him all to ourselves this evening. And I want to thank you for bringing your cadre of city administration, city officials here from your various different agencies and to be here tonight with us. I have been your council member for the past 9 years. If you look back 9 years, we've come a long way. I think back to 2009 when I took office. This city was in a very different place. Our country was experiencing a great recession. And the city at the time was looking to cut programs and funding left and right. If you remember back then, I chaired the fire committee. And the city, our mayor at the time wanted to close 20 fire companies. But we did not let that happen. And one of the champions who fought alongside me was first, back then in 2009, a council member, and then in 2010, a public advocate, was Mayor Deblasio. And give him a round of applause for the work that he did. I think you even went so far as got arrested in front of the Park Slope Firehouse, doing your work to save it. Look, the mayor and I, we don't always agree. Sometimes we're on the same team. And sometimes we're not on the same team. But we have respect for one another. And that's what's important, to respect one another and to move our city forward in the right direction. And he's had a lot of accomplishments. And let's give Melinda Katz a big round of applause and thank her. I want to thank her for, there you are. We've done some amazing work together, and you know, I'm one of your biggest fans. We've been able to do so much, and I'll go through a number of things later on, but we want to wish you all the best tomorrow. You are a nonstop public borough president. We want to make sure that you stay in good health. So let's wish her our best for tomorrow's surgery and a speedy recovery. But you know, back to Mayor Deblasio, and our borough president touched upon it when she spoke about education and universal pre-K. But when my kids went to universal pre-K, it was half a day. Now it is a whole school year. Mayor Deblasio has been able to extend that to every single 4-year-old in the city of New York. That's a major achievement. He's also been able to give every middle school student free after school. He's also taken on a Vision Zero. And I think this is probably one of his greatest achievements as mayor in his first 4 years. Today, there are fewer people who are getting killed in traffic crashes. Our pedestrians and people who are biking and driving on the street are safer. And I believe that the number is a 50% reduction in traffic fatalities. That's a huge win, and our city is safer because of that. And we all know, and we see our police here today, and we thank them for their service, but this was the safest year on record. Crime has never been lower. Let's give Mayor Deblasio a round of applause for the... And working with the mayor and working with our borough president, this district, which was once the most overcrowded school district in the city, and tomorrow we're going to cut the ribbon on a new extension of school, marking over 5,400 new classroom seats alone for this 30th Council District, over $500 million in school construction. We've also been able to, that's huge. We've passed legislation to make sure that each school is getting their fair share of physical education. The mayor is committed that in just a few years that every school will have a gym. And every school now has a certified public education teacher. That's huge for education and for healthy lifestyles. Overall, parks and infrastructure. Since being a council member, I've been able to bring back nearly $30 million, and every single neighborhood in the district has seen a significant improvement in park space. Our underground infrastructure, that might sound dirty, sewer infrastructure, together with you, Mayor, we've been able to get over $100 million. And this school, which experienced flooding just a few years ago, will, after seeing a major sewer improvement project, not have to worry about that in the future because of those important funds that have been allocated. And we're very proud of the Ridgewood section of the district, which has the largest historically landmarked district in Queens, over 1,000 buildings. Much of that has been able to be accomplished over the past couple of years, but we know that there's still more to do. And you'll probably hear from some folks from Ridgewood who still feel that there are buildings that need to be landmarked. But we have real challenges still ahead of us, and that's why we're grateful that you're here tonight. You know, our income inequality is real here in the 30th Council District and throughout the city of New York. It is becoming more and more difficult for our young families and for our seniors to afford living. And we need to look at our projects. In Queens, 70% of Queens is underserved by transportation. We're considered a transportation desert, and we're in the heart of that transportation desert. We need to invest more for our future. And so I thank you for being here today. We want to continue to have you come out over the next 4 years and stay engaged, because of the many challenges still is affordable housing and homelessness. We want to be part of that discussion, and we want to be part of fixing the problems. So thank you again for being here, and I look forward to hearing from you and then to the question and answer portion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Council Member, and I want to talk about the Council Member and all she's done in a moment, but first I want to thank everyone who's here, because I've had the honor of going to town hall meetings all over the city. And one of the things you find out very quickly is that in every community there are hundreds and hundreds of people, thousands of people in fact, who care deeply and want to be part of the solution of making their community better. This, what you see around you this evening, is something everyone should be proud of. Everyone had a long day. This is a time of year where people could obviously say, hey, I've got other things on my mind, but people came out tonight to express their concerns because they care about their community, which is something to be very proud of. So I want to ask you to please give your neighbors a round of applause for being here tonight. It is the most special time of the year. And in this city, in many ways, I think this is the most beautiful time of the year in this city. I want to wish everyone at the outset a very Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, a Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, all of it. But I also have to say, today we had a very tough moment, a very sad moment in our city in Brooklyn, where a family, a mother and 3 of her kids, passed away in a fire. And that's painful in every way, and it's even worse that it's at this time of year that family is now torn apart. So I'd just like to ask a moment of silence for the family that has gone through so much pain in Brooklyn. Thank you very, very much. And I want to say something. The fire department is investigating that situation. We cannot draw final conclusions, but here's one thing we all should think about, and please, everyone here is a community leader, a community activist, spread this word. Almost every faith uses candles as part of religious ceremonies and rituals and celebrating our beliefs. And that's a beautiful thing. But what the fire department will tell you is to please always be very, very careful with them. Please make sure that no candles are left unattended, particularly overnight, because it can be very dangerous. So just want to say at this poignant moment, I want to ask everyone to please spread that word, because it'll help save lives. A few things I want to say. Of course, the borough president, thank you so much. She has been extraordinary, and I can tell you the measure I have, because she's right, I've been to town hall meetings all over Queens, but that's not what tells me how good the borough president is. What tells me how good the borough president is that she calls me all the time, she emails me all the time, and she always has something else she is demanding on behalf of the people of Queens, and she always knows her facts, and she always has good reasons, but she's an incredible advocate for this borough. Let's thank her for all she does. And I want to also acknowledge my colleagues in the administration. First of all, the men and women of the NYPD are literally having a historic year. They are getting better all the time. Let's thank them. All the leaders here at the NYPD, thank you. And as you heard before, the leaders of a lot of the most important agencies in the city government right here. So this evening, I'm going to just say a few things, then we're going to open it up. But at the end, we're going to go to about 9 o'clock, and then anyone here, all of these heads of agencies, you get a sort of second round if you want it. They're all here. Come up, talk to them, raise your concerns, follow up on anything you heard. You don't need an appointment. They're just going to be standing right here. And it's a great opportunity to connect with them and get things done. If you're worried, it's the holidays, it's late in the evening, by the time we finish, should you come up and bother them? Well, let me tell you, they're really hardworking public servants. They love their jobs. They will stay here all night if you want them to. So come on over. Just a quick ground rule point. So we're going to go again to about 9. The best thing I ask everyone, this is what's worked at other town hall meetings, everyone, one concern or question so that we can get the most people in. It really helps. Just tell us exactly what you're concerned about. I'll do my best to answer. Sometimes these folks will join in. But we want to get as many people a chance as possible to get their concern on the table. As I said, I wanted to say about your council member. Look, Liz Crowley talked about those firehouse protests, for example, and she was such a leader for the whole city as the chair of the committee that looked out to make sure people were kept safe in this city. She's exactly right. There were many times that those firehouses were this close to being closed. And one of the reasons that they didn't get closed, one of the reasons we have the response time we have with the FDNY protecting all of us, is because Liz Crowley led the fight. Let's thank her for that. I also want you to know she was one of the leaders of an effort that I don't know how it hasn't gotten the attention it deserved, but it's true it hasn't. The men and women of the NYPD have done extraordinary things, but one of the things Commissioner Bratton made very clear when he was in office, Commissioner O'Neill as well, was they could do greater things if they had more officers. And you know, you have to go all the way back to 2001, the toughest year we ever went through in terms of what the sacrifices of our police were. For 15 years, there was no increase in the size of the police force. And Liz Crowley was one of the leaders in the council that said it was one of the most important priorities of the city to increase the number of officers on patrol. We worked together with her leadership, with the leadership of the Speaker, and today, compared to just 2 years ago, there are 2,000 more officers on patrol. Thank you, Liz, for your leadership. You heard that crime is down in every precinct in this council district. We're going to see some amazing things by the end of this year, but I can also tell you this is something I feel strongly and Commissioner O'Neill feels strongly. We can go even farther. We're going to have to work very closely with neighborhood residents, and we're going to have to keep supporting the NYPD as it gets better and stronger at everything it does, but we can get even safer. We're the safest big city in America. We can go farther. So I'm going to talk about a couple of other quick issues just to give you updates. You heard before about pre-K. I'm so proud of what we've all done together on that. This number, I showed it to Liz earlier. This is literally the council districts, 51 council districts in New York City. No council district anywhere has seen the increase in full-day pre-K that this district has seen. This is the single biggest increase in the city. 4 years ago, 36 full-day pre-K seats. Today, 1,176 full-day pre-K seats in this district. And we did the math, and this is, brace yourself, council member, it is a 3,200% increase, okay? You heard about the after-school programs. They've tripled in this district, the number of kids at the middle school level getting after school. I want to remind everyone, if you are a parent of a 6th, 7th, or 8th grader, or have a 6th, 7th, or 8th grader in your life, after school is now available in every neighborhood for free, and we're going to keep adding to it. This is a community where the demand keeps increasing. We're going to keep putting money into this council district so there's more after school for kids. Again, I'm going to do lightning round, just jump to a couple of issues quickly, and then we'll open it up. Affordable housing for our seniors in particular. Our seniors, everyone in the city is struggling to pay the rent or pay the mortgage. That's almost across the board. But no one struggles more than our seniors. A lot of seniors, of course, on fixed incomes. A lot of seniors have a house but don't have a lot of cash. One of the things that we achieved, the council played a strong leadership role, our colleagues in Albany as well, was we increased the property tax exemption, the exemption for any property tax increase if you're a senior. If you're a senior now, it used to be a much lower threshold, but now if you make up to $58,000 in family income and you are a senior, the new law will stop you from getting any property tax increase. This is something we believe there's well over 1,000 households in this council district that would benefit but still don't even know that they have a right to this exemption. We're going to work with the council member, the borough president, with community organizations to get that word out and get people signed up. Because if seniors should not be paying a tax increase, we want to have them keep that money in their pocket. Quality of life issue that people care about deeply, graffiti. NYPD is stepping up patrols focused on stopping graffiti, particularly in Forest Park, working with the Parks Department. There have been 11 arrests related to graffiti this year to date. More are coming. There has been a strong cleanup effort. We're going to keep sending the cleaning crews out regularly. That, to me, is a very important investment. We want to show that graffiti will not be accepted and that it'll be cleaned promptly. So you'll be seeing those cleanups regularly. Another important issue that we haven't seen a whole lot yet this year, I hope we don't have anything like we've seen in a few of the previous years, but snow removal. One of the big things we learned in the last few years was sanitation department did an extraordinary job in snow removal in most of the city, but there were challenges in some of the communities that had the smallest and narrowest streets. Commissioner Garcia and her team recognized the need to bring in new equipment. We got smaller equipment for smaller streets. We got more salt spreaders. And this community board, more salt spreaders have been deployed, and these small plows. I hope we don't get a chance to put them to the test, but council member, they are ready. So you're going to see better snow removal. And then I want to talk about parks. Evergreen Park has been a huge priority for the council member. I know for the borough president as well. Several phases of renovation already completed. Now it's time for the third phase. The council member put $1.6 million into this project. That's real money, $1.6 million. It needs another $500,000. We're going to throw that in so we can get phase 3 done. Also, and this is something I think a lot of people know, but I want to make sure everyone does, another $500,000 coming for the upgrades at the roller hockey rink in Juniper Valley Park. That is coming soon, too. Two things we have prioritized together, my administration and the council: tree pruning. The council member talked about some of the things that got cut back after the reception in the previous administration. Tree pruning took a huge hit. And it used to be that you would wait over a decade to ever see a tree pruned, over a decade in between prunings. We put in millions to speed that up. There's still more to do, but the tree pruning is now back on the schedule that used to be, not on this horrible slow schedule it had for too many years. We put millions into that. We also put millions into removing stumps in neighborhoods that had that problem. So this is a kind of quality of life that makes a big difference. For libraries, big news tomorrow, a groundbreaking. For the Glendale Library, construction starts in March, and that is a almost $6 million effort to upgrade the Glendale Library, so that's about to begin. And $500,000 coming for new air conditioning at the Middle Village Library. You heard before, everyone knows it. This is part of this city. The whole city needs more mass transit. This is a part of the city that really needs more mass transit. Look, the thing we can do quickest, I think everyone watched what happened with the 2nd Avenue subway line. That took forever just for a small piece of it to be completed. The blunt truth is, if we wait for new subways to be developed, we're going to wait a long, long time. The question is, what can happen quickest? The quickest way to add new transportation is select bus service. It takes real work to do it the right way. It has to be done carefully with communities to make sure it works. But when it works, it is much faster than regular buses and can carry a huge number of people. So there is work going on right now to add a new route from Woodside to Flushing along the route of the existing Q58, which is the busiest bus route in the whole borough. But now, with the SBS service that will come in the next few years, it will be a much faster bus route and help people get around. And then finally, Vision Zero. This is something everyone should be proud of. This was an effort by the NYPD, the Department of Transportation, the TLC, and community leaders all over the city who demanded changes. They saw dangerous intersections. They saw places that needed speed bumps or signals. And it's been a group effort, and it's worked. 2016 was the safest year on record, literally since the creation of the automobile, the safest year on record for traffic crashes, fatalities. 2017, we're on pace to do even better. We can do better. I guarantee you we can do better on this. So you will see Vision Zero initiatives all over this council district, all over your neighborhoods in the years to come. One of the ones we've heard a lot about is people are concerned because so much happens at Maspeth Town Hall. We will be implementing 3 speed bumps right around the town hall, particularly to protect kids and their families. So, everybody, I just want to conclude by saying I thank you for this opportunity to hear your concerns and speak to them tonight. The council member said it best. Town hall meetings give me and the whole administration a chance to hear what's on your mind. It helps us to figure out what we can do better and what you need, and then it causes us to want to come back and get those things done. So I hope this is the beginning of getting a lot of great things done for this community. Thank you so much.
Now I jump in there and... Okay, here comes the fun part. Questions, anyone? All right, well, I'll try to get to everybody. I'm going to start with Eileen, because we just gave you a shout out. The mayor just said, Eileen Riley from Maspeth Town Hall.
Right. Well, thank you very, very much. Town Hall is a community center that services the 2-year-old to the 82-year-old. And I have to thank you for the dollars. I think anybody that's from the non-for-profit world has to say thank you for the middle school programs that we're able to do ourselves. Also, guys, for the pre-K, we have another classroom because of the dollars given to us, so we're able to service 40 children. My big question would be, we need dollars for the elementary level. And that's really big, because we have a lot of schools where we have the junior high, but they can't stay, some of the kids, because they have to take home their brothers and sisters who are in the 2nd or 3rd grade. So that's one of the problems that we face. And everyone should be entitled to a free program, especially the areas of Corona, Elmhurst, where it's very low income and it's very much needed. I thank the council member for all of the dollars that she has seen to be put into our discretionary funds, and also for the money that came through capital spending for our building. So thank you very much, Liz.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the great work you do, and here's the quick answer. Look, we got pre-K to be universal, we got the after school for the middle school kids to be universal. The next step for me is 3K, which is a big initiative that 3-year-olds in the city would have early child education for free, and obviously that would lift a huge burden from parents who otherwise would be paying $10,000, $15,000 or more per child each year. That's where we're going to focus first. But your point to me is very interesting, because I would say, can I do it across the elementary schools right now? No, financially I can't. But what I could do potentially, and you're sparking an idea, for kids who want to be in the, and families that want their kid in the middle school program, could we figure out something for the kids who are taking care of the younger siblings and attach that to some of those middle school programs? So not across the board, because I can't pull that off, but could we do it more pinpoint? Because there are, of course, a lot of middle school kids who take care of the younger siblings. Maybe that's about coming up with a creative solution in some of the after-school programs, just add a section for the little kids there. That might be something we can do. I'm going to ask our, I don't know if our DYCD, yes he is, our DYCD Commissioner Bill Chong is here. I'm going to ask him to follow up with you and pursue that idea and discuss it in the budget process with me as well. You'll keep that idea, right? Good, thank you. Thanks a lot.
I'm going to go to Diane Kuzmano-Temkin, because you were jumping up and down. And the reason I'm
jumping up and down is speaking about after-school programs. Very fortunate that I work in an after-school program run by the Greater Woodward Youth Council. And today, the 4th grade students, when I told them that the mayor was coming to our neighborhood, and we were learning how to make centerpieces for the holidays, one of the students said to me, could we make one for the mayor? And I said, why not? So this is a gift from the 4th grade students at PS 128 Middle Village for the mayor.
Thank you.
Happy
Beautiful.
holidays.
Thank you so much.
And
thank you.
It just goes to show you how well the after-school programs do work.
This proves that after school works, everybody. Look at that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Will you tell the kids that this will have a place of honor at Gracie Mansion?
Oh my gosh.
And we thank you. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
That is beautiful.
No, leave it there for now. It's good. It's going to be my nice centerpiece
Okay, now we're
here,
going to go to this side. Denise Can-Smith, who is the chairperson of Community Board 2.
Yes.
Thanks for being here, Denise.
Hello, thank you. And thank you for being here, Mr. Mayor. And council member, I would like to thank you on behalf of Community Board 2 and the residents of Woodside for all your hard work and service over the last 9 years. We truly appreciate it, and it's a tremendous loss for us, to be honest. Mr. Mayor,
yes,
in the spirit of Vision Zero, I would like to ask if the DOT could reconsider the criteria that's used to determine your feasibility studies for your speed bumps, stop signs, and traffic lights. Because I get a lot of requests for them, especially around the school area, but there's certain criteria that indicates that we don't qualify, and I don't know how to explain to the parents that maybe we need to look at another solution.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's a great question, and I share your view. I totally appreciate the professionals at DOT, and I want to say this from the bottom of my heart. You know, the city runs. It's 8.5 million people and growing, and somehow it runs, and DOT does amazing work. That being said, I share your view that I want to reconsider the criteria because there's too many people want them so badly around this city. We get endless requests for stop signs, signals, speed bumps, you name it. And I think we've got to do a better job of figuring out, one, do the criteria make sense for today's reality, particularly in a Vision Zero philosophy? I mean, there's federal guidelines, there's other things we have to think about, but I think there's two things that really are eating at me. One, do they make sense with what we're trying to achieve now, as opposed to what we used to be trying to achieve? Two, we've got to be able to explain it better to people, because it shouldn't be like some mystical formula, you sort of go into the secret booth and find out. It should be something we can explain to people openly. So I want to take that to heart. I, in fact, had already said that to the folks at DOT that I wanted to sit down with them next month and go over where we stand, because this is what I hear at the town hall meetings all over the city, that people want more. So the answer is yes, we can reevaluate them. Thank you. She is great. Thank you.
Great. Do you have any other questions? We'll take from over here. Is it Danielle? Daria.
Sorry. Hi, Mr. Mayor. Great. I am a big fan of the Glendale Library, and we want to thank Elizabeth Crowley for helping us get money together to do a renovation, to make it wheelchair accessible. It's a beautiful old building that nobody with a wheelchair can get into. Moms with strollers have a hard time going up the long stairs. We can't wait for this renovation. The community's been waiting a long time. Asking if you can help expedite the construction. We were told it was going to be a year. This community to be without a library for a year, when you're told a year for construction, it really doesn't mean a year. It's 18 months, 2 years. We can't be without a library for 18 months, 2 years. I go in there as a parent. I see the library. Upstairs is beautiful. The children's library. Sorry.
No, I'm multitasking.
Okay. The children's librarian, mentors, homework help. We can't be without that. And in addition to trying to expedite the library's construction to being way shorter than a year, possibly getting mobile library. We don't know when, how many hours. We need an option for our kids, because so many children from our school, from the schools all over Glendale, are in that library. And where are they going?
Okay, so Commissioner for Department of Design and Construction that has to do the work. Now, I have a lot of respect for the city agencies that have to build things. I get very frustrated too when things take a long time. I have to acknowledge, as a homeowner who's dealt with contractors, I do know that often things take longer than we all want, sometimes legitimately, sometimes not. But what I like best is the honest answer. So, Commissioner, What's it going to take? Tell us the real timeline. And what can we do to provide an alternative in the meantime so kids in particular can have continuity when they need to use the services library?
Thank you for your question,
Higher.
and good evening.
There you go.
As the mayor was saying, we do want to provide an honest answer to you. The construction will take about 1.5 years. We will see what we can expedite, and there will be a mobile library provided by QPL, and we're working on that now as we speak.
The mobile library will be right there?
It'll be in the area, yes.
Okay, we
I
want
can certainly get more information to you. I'll get your name and convey that
let's try and make it right there. That's a really good common sense idea. When would this begin?
The mobile library, we're still working with QPL.
No, when would the work begin?
The work is going to begin. Kickoff is going to be in January, Mr. Mayor.
January next month.
Next month. Now, you said March. It's going to be in January.
Even better.
Even
okay.
better.
January.
There we go. We saved 2 months already.
Okay, that's the start. There you go.
Let me clarify. The contractor will kick it off in January. What we're going to see is submittals of drawings, and then you will soon see physical work after that.
Okay.
But the project is kicked off in January.
So, and I'm going to ask the other common sense question. When the physical library has to close for the work, the mobile unit will be in place before that, right?
Yes.
Okay. And we are going to see if we can go faster. That's the truth right now, but we're going to see if we can go faster. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, let's take one from this young man here with the blue tie.
Okay. Well, first I'd like to congratulate you for being re-elected again, and I would also like to say thank you for giving so much money for our school. Everyone is so excited. They love that you contributed so much, and I really like to thank you on behalf of PSIS 113.
Oh.
And
what's
Mayor,
your name?
What? Brian.
Brian, how old are you?
I'm 12.
Which grade are you in?
8th.
All right. He answered those questions. I think he's telling the truth. He answered very quickly. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, and I'd also like to say that thank you for the snow removal and ice as well. I remember when my mom slipped on ice and she broke her tooth and she had to go through so many things. It was painful for her, but now I know that will be blocked and that will not happen to anyone. I'd like to thank you for stopping that in future.
Well, thank you. And any young man like this who stands up with such poise, first of all, deserves a round of applause. Second, I want to tell you that I'm term limited, so you can run for mayor after me. That's right. Once you're 18, yes. Thank you, Liz. Good point. Oh, you got more?
My question is, will Common Core slowly diminish because the teachers are kind of not really using it, and the students my classmates are always complaining about it, and we're just not using it as much, and I've heard a lot of things that's going to end. Another thing.
Wait. One per person, even for the young generation. So we're going to go with that one. Okay, let me try and say this quick but clearly. In my strong opinion, the problem was the way Common Core was handled. I think it was a huge mistake. It was dropped onto schools with no preparation, no teacher training, no attempt to phase it in. It was just suddenly there overnight. I think it was a huge mistake. The idea behind it, I don't think is wrong. The idea behind it is, in the 21st century, kids have to honestly learn more than when I was coming up. In my graduating class in high school, there were kids who did all sorts of things, including went straight to work and were able to earn really good incomes. Today, the more education you get, the more chance you can have a good economic future. And so Common Core, when it's done the right way, raises those standards, but it raises them by giving teachers the support they need, by giving kids the support they need, by not focusing just on tests, but actually improving the instructional quality. So my answer to you is, we're not throwing out the idea, we're trying to apply it the way it should have been done the right way, which is to actually give people the preparation they need to reach higher standards. Thank you.
Carol. Carol? Sue, please, you. I'm sorry.
Probably have plenty I could say, but there's just two things. One, which is really funny. I moved in here 50 years ago at the Crescent. I went on Google Map the other day. Glendale, they talk about Glendale, California, Glendale, Arizona. We're still waiting for our own zip code, and I won't hold my breath waiting. That's the first thing. The second thing is, why, when you go down Woodhaven, and I hate to say it, but Select Bus has really made a mess of Woodhaven Boulevard. I'm sorry. I was a salesperson, so I drove for 40 years on roads. I look out of my window and I see the traffic coming over the viaduct. Tell me something. I came home the other day from Howard Beach to the Crescent. There's no buses in the bus lane. You can't use it after 6 o'clock. A couple of months ago, you used to be able to use it going north at certain hours. All of a sudden, those signs disappeared. My friend, another friend, we're riding up, and I'm saying, show me the buses. The roads are empty. The cars are squeezed in, and there's the bus lane, empty. I don't understand that. Why can't they use it after 6 o'clock?
All right, it's a great question. I'm going to start. You're an expert. I'm not an expert, but I'm going to say what I believe. So, none of these things are forever. This is what I want to say from my perspective. And as Liz mentioned, I was a city council member in Brooklyn. I understand life, everyday life that people go through. When you see something like that, it kind of drives you crazy because you're trying to get around. And why is that lane not available if no one's using it? The reason I say that is we are learning as we go, is the honest truth. We can make adjustments if we see something not working. The underlying idea I still believe in, which is if you can isolate a lane and the buses can move a lot more quickly, people are going to get to work more quickly. People are going to want to use mass transit. Whenever someone can use mass transit and they leave their car behind, that takes one car off the road for everyone, right? So the underlying idea is right. But what my instruction to Department of Transportation is, adjust as you go along. And they certainly, and Nicole, you can speak about this, they started with some of these routes and they were going to take out a lot of parking. They said, wait a minute, we don't have to take out that parking. Or they were going to do certain hours. They said, wait a minute, we can change those hours depending on what we experience. So the notion that some of the time, that, especially the rush hours, that separate bus lane allows the buses to move a lot more quickly with a huge number of people, right? But the point is, we need to, no, a very fair point. So we need to keep fine-tuning it to figure out what actually is going to work for the community. Take it from there.
That's exactly right. My name is Nicole Garcia, and I'm the Queensborough Commissioner for New York City DOT. So we will continue to monitor the project. It just launched last month. But in addition to the mobility improvements for the 43,000 people that use the Woodhaven SBS route, right at Woodhaven and Union Turnpike, that was in the top 10 of the most dangerous intersections in all of the borough. There were 170 crashes with injuries in the last 5 years. So we made significant safety adjustments. I'm happy to walk with you and kind of explain the pedestrian safety improvements, the vehicular improvements, but we're hearing some great things from some bus riders, and I'm more than happy to meet with you.
Okay. So I want Nicole to come visit you directly to see the specific things you suggest. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to work with her to suggest the changes you would make. Because as we just said, this is something that is a work in progress. We're willing to make revisions. So Nicole is going to follow up with you to hear your ideas on what we should revise.
Okay. I feel bad. I'm going to call on Bob Monahan because you really wanted to go next right after young Brian asked this question. So Bob Monahan, president of the Greater Ridgewood Youth Council.
Thank you. Brian is in our Sonic program at this location. And that's from our Compass program over at 128. So Commissioner Chong, thank you very much. I have something that I want to ask. You expanded summer youth employment. Yes. We were able to service 1,700 participants in summer youth employment at the Greater Ridgewood Youth Council throughout Queens.
That's a lot. Way to go.
We're now serving about 3,000 children a day throughout all of Queens. We have 12 Sonics and 10 Compasses and stuff. We've done very well. Thank you, Elizabeth, for all of your help. There is a new initiative, Commissioner, if I'm right, Chung, for service learning that's coming up for junior high school participants, I believe. I want to say that it was kind of rolled out at a SYEP meeting I want to say within the last 4 days.
So what are you looking for? Assuming that's true, what are you looking for?
Well, I'm looking for you not to go out into a lot of other schools, but to put that program, since it's for junior high school 8th graders really, who are 14, into Sonic sites with programs that have SYEP, so that we can expand the numbers, reduce the cost, and make it quite efficient, I think.
I appreciate it. And I cannot tell a lie. I'm not familiar with the new initiative, but I want to state the obvious. That sounds like a pretty smart idea.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that.
Okay.
So we'll talk.
You're going to follow up. But the point being, I think your idea combining them makes a lot of sense. Let's see what's going on with it and if we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for all you're doing, man.
Thank you.
Maria Thompson. Maria, who is the president of the Woodhaven Business Improvement District.
Hi, I'm the executive director, and I'd like to thank Elizabeth Crowley, our councilwoman, for being so wonderful for so many years. We really appreciate you, and we will miss you. I'd like to bring to your attention, Mr. Mayor, our problem in Woodhaven with Woodhaven's eyesore. It's a building that fell and collapsed 4.5 years ago. And it's God is good that no one was killed. It was just terrible. It was like an earthquake. And afterward, they shored it up and they left it there. And it's still the same 5 years later. Now, we were this close to getting it demolished to build housing for seniors. I would have loved to see that go there. But the owner, he doesn't want to sell. He doesn't want to do anything. He just wants it to sit there. And it's an eyesore. It's dangerous. And we'd like to have it demolished. Now, secondly, a second part, tomorrow the city council is going to vote on 4,000 additional vendor licenses.
They're not going to vote after all. That has been pulled back.
Okay, but
Pulled back.
good, because we don't need 4,000 additional vendors on our streets
So,
giving concession to our stores.
thank you very much for the point. Let me tell you, I said from the beginning of the process around the vendor bill that if it did not come with limits that made sense and it didn't come with some balance to respect the bricks and mortar stores, the mom and pop stores that are part of every community in the city that are struggling right now, and it didn't come with a better enforcement approach, if I didn't see a bill I was comfortable with, I couldn't support it. And I think other council members felt that, a lot of council members felt that as well. So it has been pulled back. The discussion will begin in the new council. But I think I would tell you, I think I probably am very kindred with your view that I want to see a lot more balance before there's any thought of increasing the numbers. In terms of that site, and any site, look, any site that's derelict that we could turn into affordable housing for seniors is a very exciting idea to me. Do we know the owner of that site and what we can do about it?
No, we do not, but so the way it works, Leiden from Housing Preservation and Development, we work with the Department of Buildings. We do the demolition when they look and give the order, so we can go out tomorrow and check.
Okay, so Leiden Sleeper will follow up. The goal would be to figure out what we could do to convince the owner to turn it over, to us, or find a way to purchase it, or whatever would make sense, to get a nonprofit involved, whatever. But we don't want a community eyesore. We're everywhere in the city looking for the opportunity to create affordable housing for seniors. This is the biggest need we have right now. Thank you.
want to take from this side? MK Moore. MK, are you the president of the Forest Park, Friends of Forest Park?
Thank you. So, good evening. Thank you for coming. So, like the council member just said, I'm the president of the Friends of Forest Park. We're a 300-member strong volunteer organization. We hold monthly events. We hold monthly events in Forest Park, which we've received a lot of support for. And when you were making your comments earlier, you talked about quality of life issues, and we do have quality of life issues in the park. Fortunately, the park is in the 102nd precinct, which is, probably the best precinct in the city, and so we do have a very diving crime rate.
No controversy here.
Yeah. but the park, our beautiful park, is unique because we are bridle trails and hiking trails and forest, and therein also lies our problem because our quality of life issues occur in those areas. Right. And one thing we definitely need in the 102nd precinct is an all-terrain vehicle. Yep. To get these officers out into the park, and you have a lot more money than I do, and I'm just hoping that you can help us help the precinct to make that happen.
Well, I appreciate that a lot. Thank you for your leadership in protecting the park. We had this conversation just the other day, and Chief Barrera was telling me about this need. So in the short term, the chief and the other leadership have access to those all-terrain vehicles if they need to bring them from elsewhere. But I also said we would look in the upcoming budget to see if we could add some more for Queens so that they wouldn't have to look elsewhere when they have a need. So I don't have it yet, but now it is 100% on my radar. It will be part of the budget discussion, and if we can reach it, we're going to try and get it done for June. Thank you.
This young lady in the pink.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I'm a teacher in your public schools. Last month, Mr. Ray Orlando, CFO for the DOE, visited Queens High School for the Sciences at York College. QHSS is the only specialized high school in Queens. It educates children from 4 different boroughs. Its enrollment is constantly increasing, and it is housed on just one floor of one building on the York campus. Mr. Orlando told the school that not only would the DOE not be giving the school money, but that they would not be included in the 5-year capital plan, negating any chance of controlling the safety, community, and health concerns that currently plague the building the school is in. York has offered the land, and Mr. Orlando advised QHSS to seek out money from politicians to solve our problem. So here I stand tonight, Mr. Mayor, asking you to get SCA to build QHSS a building.
Okay. Thank you for what you do, first of all. I appreciate all our teachers. Let's give her a round of applause. So I always tell people when they're the first person to raise an issue. So I've had thousands of issues raised in the time I've been mayor in different settings, but you're the first that I've heard say it directly. I'm glad you did. We have DOE here, we have SCA here, so the Deputy Chancellor of DOE, Melanie LaRocca from SCA. So I'm willing to look at this more deeply because any specialized program we're always interested in gaining capacity for. Is there something we can say here and now, though, about what we can do to address the capacity issue there?
I can speak, not with specifics, but I know that we're talking about that. I'm not sure what Mr. Orlando said to you, but we are concerned about the size, and we've been talking about that in terms of what we can do. So maybe we can figure out where that conversation happened, but we are concerned about the size.
So
we're aware of that.
Melanie is going to come to meet with you guys and see the space, because if anything were to happen, it would be through the School Construction Authority, the Cool School Construction Authority. And I think it's a very interesting proposal. So let's follow up on that and see if we can get something done. Thank you.
Okay, this young gentleman, yes?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Congrats, Mayor.
Thanks.
My name is James Baldwin, and we met, this is the third time I met you, And a couple of months ago, you told me that you can make anything happen. And you introduced
Wait a minute, I don't remember saying that, but continue.
You make things happen. And you introduced me to Steve Banks.
I didn't say anything, but go on.
So, okay. Right now, I'm going through the same situation I've been stressing to you about, that I'm still in the homeless situation.
Yep.
Steve Banks, you appointed me to him, and the people on his team is like ducking me. And I don't appreciate that. And my whole thing is like, it's not that I know that it's a difficult situation. I know it's a lot of rules and regulations that go through this process, but my whole thing is don't try to pacify me. All I want for Christmas is an apartment, that's it. Okay. And then right now, my grandmother, she's dying with stage 4 cancer, and I can't move how I want to move. And then I've been sleeping on the streets for the last months. And my whole thing is like, if I'm calling, I'm telling you guys what's going on and what my situation is, don't push me to the curb. Because how would you feel if your kids was in my shoes? Your kids is living a good life.
I got it, and we've talked before, and no one wants to push anyone to the curb. So, and you said it was your grandma?
Yes,
yeah.
my grandmother's
So, and we also want to see if we can be helpful. Steve Banks, who I've been working with now for years, I have seen him find a way to find a solution for many, many people. Don't no, wait, we're not going back and forth. You've made your point, and we've met before. He's standing right here. I'm saying to him again, and I'd like you to look at this personally. Let's see what it will take to find a solution, and obviously, if there's anything we can do to help in terms of the grandmother situation as well.
We will do that, Mr. Baldwin. We'll be right back.
We'll follow up with you directly at the end of the meeting, directly, okay? And let's see what we can get done. That's the answer. Thank you.
Mike, I'm going to take you in the back there. Mike Leando is Liberty Park Homeowners. And I didn't get to thank the mayor for what he just said earlier, that he's going to contribute the $500,000 that we need for Liberty Park. So round of applause for that. That's a big win for the district.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, and I thank you very much for that that you're contributing to the Evergreen Park. Appreciate it. Liberty Park appreciates it too, and all the children in the area do too. My question to you is, the 104 precinct is a huge, it covers a big area. And I'd like to know, they're very low staffed. I'd like to know what your idea is to make it better for the 104 precinct to cover all the areas.
Okay, thank you very much for the question, and thank you for all you do for the community. Now, Chief, I'm going to need your help on this. I mean, you always need, you know, in a perfect world, well, I actually you'll decide who's going first. In a perfect world, we always want more staffing, more coverage. Again, working with the council, we added 2,000 more officers on patrol. We've seen the impact of that. We've seen the declines in crime. The numbers I saw for your precinct were amazing.
Amazing.
So I got to be honest, with the people you have, you've already achieved great things. So I'm not sure I'm in a position to add more personnel at this moment, but speak to the situation.
Hello, Mike. How are you? Good evening, everybody. Captain Mastronati, John Mastronati, the CEO of the 104 Precinct. We've been certainly doing a lot more with less, and it's showing. My crime rates are down dramatically in the command. We're doing very well. Thank you. The last two previous academy class, we had a total of 6 this past graduating class. We received a total of 6 the past class. And more good things are to come because the NCO program's coming to the 104 very soon. So I think that should be more than enough and suitable to help us out in the 104. But thank you.
You just tell everyone once over what NCO will mean for the precinct.
The NCO programs, the neighborhood coordination offices, it's going to be a joint community relationship with the police and the community where they're going to assign 2 police officers to every sector. And those 2 police officers are going to come out, just like we're doing tonight, to our community council meetings, the ones that you attend, the one that Elizabeth attends with us. And what they're going to do is take your Q&A, and they're going to be crime fighters as well. They're going to be multitasking, and that's going to alleviate a lot of the pressures on the patrol sectors. Okay, so they're going to have a team of police officers in each sector every given tour. So it's going to work out just fantastic, and I know that's going to work out well because in the other command it's doing very well and it's very fruitful. Anybody else?
Sarah? No? You have a question? You're raising your hand?
Hi. Hello. Hi. As you guys know, there's a quote, what the news articles are calling is a retail apocalypse, which is impacting all over the country.
Yep.
And I just want to know what we can do, not just the government, to support small businesses. And as you know, and if you go down Bleecker in Manhattan, there are just row after row of empty storefronts. And it's sad, where it just feels like it's out of our control. And honestly, we are impacting that because we order off of Amazon and stuff like that. But one thing I do know is that I read in the New York Times that sometimes landlords are waiting for that next big check or from a big corporation, which honestly may never come. So I was just wondering what we can do, or what you can do, or anyone else can do.
Thank you. Excellent question. This is a question that people care about deeply all over the city. And you're right. Look, something very troubling is happening to our retail stores, and it's everywhere. So it was already, look, running a retail store is hard work, and it was already a challenge. The way people are purchasing now is making it harder. There's no question about it. We have to look at this from two angles. One is what the city can do and what we can get the state to do, and then the second is what everyday people can do. From the city perspective, the first thing that we changed was the fines on small business, because I believe fundamentally in the previous administration, the fine levels, I mean, I have evidence to back it up, the fine levels kept going up and up. It particularly hit the outer boroughs, much more to Manhattan, and it was all for revenue. We have reduced fines 40%, but health and safety is just as good as ever. So you've seen many fewer fines, and particularly thinking about restaurants, diners, and all, there's a lot fewer fines, but they're just as safe as ever despite fewer fines, which proves to me that the fines were being given the wrong way. So that's one thing. Two is we've found a number of tax reductions that a lot of small business can qualify for but don't even know it necessarily. So Small Business Services Department is helping to connect small businesses to those tax breaks. We're providing free legal help if a small business needs to have a negotiation with the landlord over the lease. Those things all help. They don't solve the problem, but they help. Another step is exciting to think about, would have to take help from Albany, which is some kind of limitation on how long a storefront can be held off the market. Because you're exactly right. We see now like years and years of certain landlords holding a storefront off the market because they want to cash in at some point, but that's a blight for the community in the meantime. And there's got to be some way to put some limits on that. We're trying to explore legally what that would be. So that's what the government side of the equation. All the rest of us side of the equation, let's face it. In my neighborhood in Brooklyn, I love the mom and pop stores. I love the stores that have been there for a generation or more. They're a big part of our life. I got to make sure I shop there, right? I'll give you an example. Literally a block away from my house was just a neighborhood sporting goods store where my son Dante, my daughter Kiara got all the sports equipment for the teams they were on. Like when you're in Little League, that's where you went to get the uniforms and all. We didn't deal with like a big chain store. We went to the neighborhood store. And whenever we bought anything, a t-shirt, sweatpants, anything, we went there. No offense to Modell's or whatever, we went to the neighborhood store. And I think that's something people have to ask themselves. If now with these stores going through so much challenge, if you love your local stores, give them more of your money compared to the big chain stores. That will make a difference.
Other people for questions? Oh, Ken?
Are you going to be supporting the Montauk line in Queens and maybe putting funds into it? As you said, Queens is a transportation desert.
Yeah, thank you for the question. This one is, I want to be really straightforward here. It's an appealing option on its face, but it comes with real challenges. And I don't want to mince words about it. And I think the best and most honest answer is, are we ready to do that today? No. Could we be ready in the future? Yes, I could see that. But I want to be honest about the challenge today. It is an appealing option. We're not convinced that the ridership would be everything that we'd want it to be for the amount of money we'd have to spend, because you're talking a huge amount of money to make it possible for passenger service and a very substantial operating budget. But on the plus side, if we were envisioning the future of Queens and the future of the city, we would want a lot of light rail everywhere. Because again, we're not going to be building new subway lines. I mean, honestly, maybe someday, but we have a much better chance. The first and fastest thing, as I said, is select bus service that you can put in without having to put in rails, obviously, and so much infrastructure. But the next thing, which is happening in cities all over the country, is to expand light rail. The sheer cost, I don't think, allows us to do it now, especially because we don't know what's about to hit us from the federal side, given the legislation that's likely to be voted this week. But I would not rule it out. And I think what's fair to say is that line is potentially convertible at any time. So today, honestly, no, I can't reach it today, but I don't rule it out for the future. Thank you.
One more on this side, and then I'm going to go back to Travis.
Actually, it's Tyler.
Tyler,
No problem.
I'm sorry.
No problem. I'm going to stay seated because I hurt my ankle. No disrespect. Thank you. All right. So just to start off with, I've shared this data with your office. I've also shared it with Mike Miller's office. I've shared it with Community Board 5. I've shared it with Jason Banray of the DOT. We are working with those folks. I think everyone should really kind of hear it. I applaud the idea of changing the standards for having speed bumps and stop signs. Someone else mentioned expediting something. I'd like to expedite that even more if we could. To give you an idea of how difficult it has been, along a residential side street in my neighborhood, a 5-block stretch, and not the long blocks, little short ones, a 5-block stretch of a residential side street, the accident history for that street has been 32 accidents in 3 years. 7 of which, well, 7 injuries, 6 accidents, 7 injuries. 3 years on a residential side street. Now, we are working with Jason Banray. This street, just I think last year, was denied speed bumps and stop signs, which is kind of bonkers if you ask me. And I've been doing traffic counts on that street since 2009, and I can tell you that on any given weekday, based on the numbers that I see doing traffic counts at the intersection of this street with a major street, and the street I'm talking about is 78th Avenue between 62nd Street and Cypress Hill Street. It's a shortcut to and from the Jackie Robinson Parkway. When I do traffic counts there in the morning, I count more than 500 vehicles using that street in 2 hours. So consequentially, it's logical to assume that in the evening, during the rush hour, there's probably another 500 vehicles. And then we have all the vehicles that
Okay, I don't want to get too deep.
So basically, it's like, I don't know, what can I do to expedite this
for your
even
block
more?
Nicole, what can we do in this situation?
We're going to be coming to you in February with a plan. The short blocks are actually why the speed bumps aren't feasible, because we can't get vehicles to stop. But we're going to be coming and meeting with you. I know you've been meeting with my staff on a regular basis, so by February we'll have a plan.
Okay,
so wait,
just a little note
Hold on,
here.
hold on. We don't do back and forth. You really articulated very powerfully your point. Let me question. Okay, but there's been a lot of problems on the block. What can you do? I'm confused. If you say what you can't do, what could you do?
So we're looking at markings, additional signage. We will take a look at your counts. Our engineers did look to see if we could put in stop signs. Those aren't feasible. I know we're.
So what's not feasible about a speed bump?
The block faces are actually too short. So when cars are driving over them, we don't. They'll go over them, and then there's engineering criteria. We have to have a certain distance for them to decelerate.
Well, you go to, sir, we're not doing back and forth. You really, it's just, but you can work that out with her. Seriously, it's your block, and I know you care about it. She's going to follow up directly. Nicole, go to the block, meet with him and his neighbors, lay out all of the options, because let's get to yes on what we can do.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, back to this side. Jean-Claude. Jean-Claude.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everything you've done for us a little bit over the years, and You've been great. You're going to be sorely missed. Now, Mr. Mayor, I'm from the Windward Garden Homeowners Association, and there's a little triangle area that we have, and our problem is that 50th Avenue, people cut across from Queens Boulevard, from the BQE, from everywhere you can think of to go through our neighborhood, and they don't respect anything. We need the speed bumps. I have the same problem as this gentleman. Denise mentioned it before. We have been asking for speed bumps for years. And for some reason, the blocks are too short. We can't get a stop sign. We can't get anything. We really need something. We've had numerous accidents there also. And sooner or later, now there's a senior center that just opened up on the corner of Laurel Hill Boulevard and 61st Street. These people are walking around with walkers and canes all over the place. Right. We are looking to have somebody killed. It's not going to be...
And we don't want that. So this is both about DOT and PD. Who's got the senior center he's referring to? Which precinct? Okay, so let's talk about both pieces of the equation. So, because when you're talking about a lot of traffic cutting through the neighborhood, particularly if they're doing, if it's any trucks illegally or anything around a senior center, that raises things to a higher level. So first for the precinct, what can we do to make sure there's enforcement in the area of concern? And then Nicole talk about what we can do on the DOT side.
Okay, so Captain Forgione, I'm the commanding officer of the 108 Precinct. That complaint hasn't come through my office. So I have Hugo Arica, he's my traffic sergeant. Every time I put him on a task, everybody gives me a call and gives me compliments because he is relentless with his follow-up. So I'm going to have him contact you tomorrow, find out what time of the day those issues are coming on, and I guarantee you that you will be calling me and thanking me, okay?
And with regard to safety, I believe my staff has been in touch with you. We're looking to set up a meeting in January. We did do a one-way conversion study, which we did find feasible. So we'd like to meet with you in January, talk a little bit about that. We think it's going to make it safer, especially for the seniors. That's correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a woman with a turquoise scarf.
Wait, let's get you a microphone.
My concern is with tree damage being done to my property. It has raised the sidewalk over 1.5 feet that you can't even park a car. You can't open the door to get in. Councilwoman Crowley has been kind enough to come by my house and has even witnessed and taken a picture in front of it. I have reached out to the city for over 15 years complaining. I have numerous claim numbers complaining about this tree. And I know they might not say it doesn't meet the criteria, but over 3 years ago, I was rated an 88. I have sent pictures, I've sent letters, I've reached out to the Parks Department, and I'm still waiting. 2 years in a row, somebody has come and measured it and told me it was high priority, would be done by the end of 2015, nothing happened. 2016, they came and measured, and nothing happened, and I'm still waiting. Councilwoman Crowley has tried to help me.
Your plea has been heard. Dottie Lewandowski's here, the Queens Borough Coordinator for Parks. She is going to have a team come over tomorrow to figure out. Wait, whoa. I'm trying to help you. Listen to me 1 second. They're going to come over tomorrow to make the final plan, and then they are coming to address the condition. The answer is yes, the city will do it. Done.
Okay, thank you.
We will do it. Thank you.
And then I'll take the gentleman just in front of you.
In Glendale, you mentioned it was pretty horrendous. Now, people who wait for the 55 and the 29 bus have to wait an inordinate amount of time, long lines, people get frustrated, people get annoyed, people blame people for poor performance, and I'm sure that had an impact on the recent election. But what can you do, Mr. Mayor, to relieve the the problems with the 55 and the 29.
Well,
because we're not going to get any transportation like a light rail in my lifetime, probably.
Again, that's why I think the first thing we need to think about is expanding, and we've already announced a huge expansion of select bus service. But I do want, since your point was about the last election, I do want to take this moment to just poll the room about the MTA, because it's very important to see what people assume. And I ask this question at town hall meetings all over the city. So I'm going to give people two choices. It's a factual question. One of these answers is correct. Either the MTA is run by the City of New York or the MTA is run by the State of New York. Raise your hand if you believe the MTA is run by the City of New York. Raise your hand if you believe the MTA is run by the State of New York. Thank you, well-educated citizens. So it had nothing to do with my election. I know people are upset about everything with transportation, rightfully, but the reason I say that is not to be diffident, not to be difficult, but to make a point. The way we're going to fix the MTA is for the state to finally take responsibility. The state of New York's been hiding behind the fact that for a long time people didn't know who was really running the MTA. Now it's become common knowledge, as that vote makes clear. That's good, because just like you can hold me responsible for policing, for sanitation, for schools, we should be able to hold the governor and the state responsible for the MTA so they'll actually fix it. Now, I think, personally, the MTA needs a vast infusion of money. I have proposed something. It's actually literally the only full proposal on the table at Albany is a millionaire's tax on New York City, millionaires and billionaires. The money would go for consistent repairs of the MTA. That, to me, is the best solution. But in the here and now, on something like bus service, the city does contribute with select bus service, because the only way it works is we put in a lot of the capital money. We have to create the routes or else it couldn't work. That's been actually cooperative. That's been productive. We've announced 21 new routes, of which one is the one for the Q58 that will now become a faster route. We need to just keep going in that direction, because you can do endless additions if you think about it. It's the thing that actually works is the fastest thing. But if you want a bigger breakthrough on the rest of the bus service and on the subway service, everyone needs to use their voices as citizens to insist that the state government, including your local legislators, who I'm sure are very, very conscientious, but they still need to hear your voice saying, get us a plan to fully fund the MTA so they can fix the bus service and fix the subways. That is my answer on how we move forward. Well, it does, because we're putting the select bus service in that's going to help people on the Q58 line. And if we do the work to get the actual millionaire's tax or some other plan like it passed, then there'll be the money to create more frequent service that actually will help people.
Okay, we're going to spend some time on this side of the room. This young lady here, second row. You.
Hello, I'm Juliana Bondi, and this is Isabel Gazdira, and we're students at Maspeth High School. We're juniors. So first off, we would like to thank the both of you for everything that you've done for our community, especially you, Elizabeth Crowley. We know that you've made special appearances at our school, and we're very thankful for your involvement. But our problem is at Maspeth High School, we've been applying for boys volleyball and boys JV baseball teams with PSAL. However, as you might know, that the federal government instituted Title IX in trying to fix the ratio of boys and girls participating in sports so that the ratio would be 50% boys and 50% girls, and it would make sure that more females are participating in athletics. However, in our school, Maspeth High School, it's actually had the opposite effect, because in trying to fix the city ratio, new schools like us are being denied of boys teams, and we have an uneven ratio of girls and boys participating in our school. So our total enrollment has 50% boys and 50% girls. However, in our sports programs, we have 62% of girls participating in sports and 38% of boys participating. So we've reached out to PSAL multiple times for these teams. However, we've constantly been denied. And we just want to know what we can do to get our boys teams, because we don't want boys to suffer and get discriminated against.
Wow, congratulations. That is impressive. I'm very impressed. You know your stuff, you have your facts, and you made a passionate argument. On behalf of the boys, no less. I really appreciate that. So, from my point of view, I'm not a lawyer, but from my point of view, the intention of Title IX is not to take away, but to add. It's to make sure there were maximum options for girls, not to take away options from boys. So I'm confused, and the Deputy Chancellor is here, how that could have happened, and if there's other elements to this where we could help them get these boys programs, because they do have strong girls programs, that's great. What do we do in a situation like this?
Thank you for your question. It's a great question, and you articulated it very well. I will look into this. I'll talk to you afterwards, and we will find out how we can fix this for you.
Yeah,
Okay.
It sounds fixable to me.
Yes, it does, but we have to look at the rules, and I have to talk to the PSL
So we're going to
team.
start with the hope it is readily fixable, and the Deputy Chancellor will work, and I took a note on that too. I'll follow up as well, but will you please see the Deputy Chancellor after? Let's see if we can get this done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take another question in the back. Terry.
Thank you very much. Want to appreciate Ms. Crowley, who joined with me back months ago at LaGuardia Community College, did a presentation on the issue that I'm deeply concerned about, and Ms. Crowley's been deeply concerned about, and which is kind of like the elephant in the room, homelessness. Mr. Mayor, and I'm not going to here point fingers or anybody else. You inherited a problem. I think the problem's got substantially worse. We have 104,000 children we know, according to HUD, that are doubled up, tripled up in other people's apartments and that are in shelters. Okay, this is 14,000 families, 60,000 people in shelters, and many people, as you well know, one paycheck away. I appreciate what you have done in terms of legal services, because I'm working with a woman in Middle Village right now who's got a court date on December 21st. This is her third appearance. Hopefully we can find a way for her to find a place to live. She's 80 years old, she's partially crippled, and that's a problem. We work with Catholic Charities. They're telling me fundamentally they are not accepting any more applications. From 2008, they are backlogged in terms of trying to help people with senior citizen problems and finding a place for them to live. I have on many, many occasions contacted HPD, contacted other parts of your government, and have been basically never given a chance or a response. I have put together, as head of the Fiorello Homes for the Homeless Campaign Association, a program. We are the richest city in the world. We should not have one homeless person in this city. We have, according to the comptroller, according to the city advocate, 1,100 pieces of public vacant land. Let me finish.
Yeah, I want.
Okay.
But wait, just respectfully, just get to the thing you want to ask, because everyone else has been doing that. So
let's build housing that's permanent for people who are homeless, not shelters. Shelters helps no one.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. And I appreciate the point you made. And you said something particularly important, which is the people who are a paycheck away. And this time of year, especially, we should all remember the phrase, "There but for the grace of God go I." There are a lot of people, I have met them, I've talked to them, hardworking people, people with jobs right now, who slipped into homelessness simply because of the outstanding, outrageous price of housing in the city. So your core point, I couldn't agree with more, and I grapple with this every day. There's extraordinary wealth all around us. How is it even possible that it happens here? The blunt truth is, if I could unlock more of that extraordinary wealth and apply it to the problem, I think we'd have a different reality. But that doesn't forgive any of our mistakes or any of our missteps as an administration or any of our predecessors for the 35 years we've had a homelessness crisis. Here's where I think we move forward. First of all, we've got the biggest affordable housing creation program in the history of the city right now. Whoa, wait, we're not doing back and forth. Let me speak to it. Affordable housing, look at that program. There are units for people who make $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. It's 300,000 apartments. It's a vast program. But that plus stopping the evictions with the legal services, as you mentioned, plus all the things we're doing trying to protect the public housing, which is a huge amount of affordable housing, protecting the people in rent-stabilized housing. We had 2 rent freezes for them. We got to do all of that and more. Anything that is being created as a shelter, the goal is to ultimately turn it into permanent affordable housing. We said that when we announced the plan in the spring. It's not to have shelter forever. No one wants shelter forever. But I also want to be blunt with people. It's going to be a long, tough fight because of the nature of the problem. Here's where I want to just say to this community and to the council member that we want to restart and have a dialogue with this community and figure out a way forward together. In the spirit of this season, we want to sit at the table, start over to figure out how we can address this problem the right way and work with the community on solutions. Every part of this city needs to help figure out how we address the problem. Every part of the city is in this together. There are homeless people literally from every neighborhood in the city. But what we want to do better is to sit at the table and try and come up with a common solution. That's what we pledge to do.
Okay, now, one woman in the back with a white sweater.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. My name is Stephanie, and I'm a resident from Woodhaven. And first of all, I want to say thank you for the select bus service along Woodhaven Boulevard. I am a transit rider, so I do want to say thank you. I know that there's been a lot of controversy over the street designs, but my question to you is, there are 238 bus routes in the city of New York, and the bus forward plan with select bus service only addresses 21. And so my question is to you, what are we going to do about the other 238 routes, to be able to move 2.5 million bus riders every single day to their destinations?
Thank you very much for the question. Look, the 21 is new. I want to make sure everyone's understanding that. It's 21 new select bus service routes that would be, the faster service that we think is going to attract a lot more people to use buses and get out of their cars or not need car services or all the other things that clog up roads. So it's a big contribution, we believe. A single line, we have single SBS lines that are taking 30 and 40,000 passengers a day. So they really could contribute. But it's the same point as before. On all the other routes, which is run by the MTA, how do we fix it? We need a funding source. I mean, it's not, this is what drives me crazy about not what people are saying in this room, but the way the whole thing is discussed over years and years in the media and elsewhere. How do we expect to fix the MTA without a consistent funding source? It's true the MTA a long time ago should have invested in some different things than it did, particularly in the subways. They didn't invest in the most basic behind-the-scenes things like the electrical systems and the signals and all that. But any way you slice it, you can't solve a problem of this magnitude without money. And I fundamentally believe, look, I think even though there's still a fight going on in Washington at this very hour, if the tax bill passes, everyone understands there's going to be huge tax breaks for wealthy people. I think one of the responses to that would be to say, at the state level, pass a millionaire's tax for the MTA. Because a lot of those wealthy people are about to get a big tax break, so why don't we take some of that back for the MTA? That's what I think would actually be the productive solution for all those other bus lines.
Okay, we're going to stay on this side of the room for a little bit. The gentleman with the hand up, the black cardigan.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. My name is David Sands. I'm an active member of Liberty Park Homeowners Association. I've been working closely with the councilwoman and Queensborough president and great Commissioner Dorothy Lewandowski from the parks. A lot of money has been put into Evergreen Park. The last phase, the third phase, councilwoman has put in $1.6 million, and you tonight contributed another $500,000. The total price for that project is going to be around $6 million to do the ball fields and the entrance to the park. So I'm just asking, going forward in 2019 fiscal budget, if somehow between the mayor's office and I'm going to write a letter to Queensborough president, if we could try to get the rest of that money to seal the deal on the park. And one of my questions is, It's been very frustrating. I don't know if we could hire more design teams or architects to work. You've been putting so much money, more than I've ever seen, into parks, but there's so much construction that wants to get done, but it takes such a long time. The first phase of the project took maybe 4 years, and the second phase hasn't started yet. I think it's still out for bid. So I'm just looking for ways where all this money's going into parks, if there's a way that we could expedite the process, maybe with the bidding and the design and planning.
Thank you very much.
Can I just ask you one more quick question?
That was a quick question.
Right.
I want to just, in respect to everyone else, one per person. Look, there's no question, this is just a common sense issue. And I think the Parks Department does great work. I don't think they mean to make things slow. I think they're trying their damnedest. But something's wrong that things take this long. I understand there are environmental rules and there's laws and, design. When you design something with a community, I get that that takes longer. For example, if they just said, hey, we got a generic design, we're starting tomorrow, community doesn't get to say anything about it, that would probably speed it up, but people wouldn't like it because they do want to be able to help figure out what the park will look like. So, some of this is objective, right, to be fair to the Parks Department. And some of this is harder than, 20 or 30 years ago where some of the rules were less stringent. But it still doesn't make sense to me that things take this long. So I've had this conversation with the Parks Department. I've had it with DDC. This is like we talked about the speed bumps and the traffic signals and all that before. This is another area where I want to do a reset in the new term and ask the question, what's it going to take to speed up the parks projects? If it took more architects or more engineers, I'd pay for that in a heartbeat because we'd ultimately save money. If we could take every project and get it done a year earlier, we would save money in the long run. So your point is very well taken. I think your common sense point makes sense. I'm going to try and see if we can figure out a bigger plan to do it. In the meantime, the only advice I can give is where there is community input, try and make sure the community does it as quick as possible so everything else can move along. But I'll follow up, and I'll follow up on the phase 4 of the project and see what we can do in the next budget.
Thank you. We're going to take 2 from this section, right in the middle, woman with the button.
Hi, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you very much for having us tonight. So I am a resident of Richmond Hill, just across the street. I'm a huge supporter of the Queensway project, which I know you're aware of. It's to transform the abandoned rail line that's been sitting there for so many years into something that's usable for us. One of the reasons I'm excited about it is it creates this very rare north-south corridor that allows biking and pedestrians to be off the street. So I do think, and I bike and I walk, I think it's going to be great for Vision Zero. We know the Regional Plan Association, their 4th annual plan, they just said some very supportive things about the Queensway as parks for Central Queens. So my question to you is, there's been a lot of talk about reactivating the train. I don't think the MTA or the city can ever afford that. And I don't think the local residents like me, I live a block from it, want the train. As much as it would be wonderful it had never been deactivated, unfortunately it was. So I just want to know, can we finally please get a commitment from your administration to help us build the first phase, which is right here in Glendale behind Home Depot, and allocate some capital construction funds to help the design, which is nearly done? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Your plea was eloquent and impassioned, and I'm sorry to rain on the parade, but I got to be real with you because, again, I'm a firm believer. This is my 49th town hall meeting, and I believe New Yorkers like the blunt truth. So it's not, I wish it was as easy. It's not, and here are the 2 challenges we face immediately. It's not figuring out what we would have to do. We know right away, before we've done all the specifics, it's $200 million from our estimate, early estimate, to rework it into what it ideally might be before you talk about the annual costs. So to be very real, I mean, you think about all the other things people would like to do, $200 million in capital is a very big ticket, but at least we understand what it would mean if we wanted to get in it. That's not, well, you're saying one piece, but I'm saying, just to be real straight up with people about the whole thing, that's the ballpark we're talking about, which is sobering. But before we even decide if we're willing to think about that price tag, it's the MTA and now this potential proposal around the airports as part of what the governor's talking about with JFK access. Honestly, we need resolution on those issues. We need the MTA to either renounce it or say they're interested in what it would take. And we need, I do think the airport access thing is moving relatively quickly. We need the state to declare if it wants to do something there or not, to clear the way for whatever other decisions we would make. So I'm being real with you because it's a complicated one. It really is. There's a lot of moving parts here. But what I can say at least is we're going to push the MTA, we're going to push the state, just declare themselves. If they say, no, we actually want it, that's probably going to win the day, but we need to get those answers first. Thank you.
Okay. Staying in this section, just in the back, gentleman with the blue shirt, hand up. You, yes, standing up.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Welcome to Glendale. I sit on the local community board transportation committee, and as you've heard this evening, transportation safety is a big issue in our neighborhood. I think because of the peculiar geography of Queens, where you have arterial streets jammed up against neighborhoods, you have a lot of conflict of people cutting through and really behaving badly in their vehicles and causing a lot of danger to our elderly and to our children. And so my question to you is the Department of Transportation giving any consideration to reactivating the slow zone program, which speaks to these kind of geographies and isolating neighborhoods from cut-through traffic?
It's a great question. Thank you very much. Well, Department of Transportation? Go ahead. There you go.
There we go. Sorry about that. So while we don't have the neighborhood slow zone programming, which is a branding thing, what we've been doing is consolidating all of these speed bumps that have been coming in areas so we can study them wholesale, work with the community boards to get them wholesale. So if there are locations near schools, residential blocks, we're kind of creating chunks of them.
So you sound like you're saying a variation on a yes.
Yes.
Okay, I would say yes next time.
Yes.
Okay, so a rose by any other name, right? So it's the same idea, applied in a somewhat different way, but with the same goal. Yeah, you're right. Those are vulnerable areas. We have tools that would work to address the problem. You want to do that. She's going to follow up with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we have about 15 minutes left. Let's see how many we can do fast.
Okay, I'm going to move back to this side of the room. We have a young man in the back with a blue shirt on, T-shirt. That's.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. My question is about political apathy and just sort of political involvement. So, you know, I have to be honest, I didn't vote in the last election, and part of the reason why I didn't vote is because, you know, a lot of times you think, oh, it's New York, Democrats always win. And I think for a lot of people, especially younger people in these communities, we kind of feel a little shut out from local government and local politics. We feel like the Democratic Party is like too big, too bureaucratic. So I guess I would just like to know from you what kind of things you recommend for getting politically involved.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the question. I would say you're very honest question, and thank you for it. The first thing I'd say, just to be real and straightforward, is even someone thinks one person's going to win and they don't have to vote. Whatever you felt about the results of November 2016, it's further proof that you can never go to bed assuming anything in an election, right? So the notion that anyone could think, oh, I can sit it out, my vote doesn't matter, I hope that's being dispelled now, because if you have any impulse to vote, you should vote. But to your very fair point, I can only say this, I can't speak for other parties, I can say something about my own party. I do think it's too bureaucratic. I do think it does a lousy job of inviting new people in, and particularly young people in. And I think that's everywhere. I think that's a national problem with the Democratic Party. And I think the best way to break through that is to do all of the grassroots community things, you know, to get involved, whether it's community board or community education council, precinct council, and obviously a lot of civic groups where it's direct impact on the community, tangible results. But I also think, you know, people should run. People should run for office. They should run for county Democratic committees, should run for, there's pretty much always something to run for if you're motivated. And we are seeing it all over the country now. A whole generation of people that never would have considered running is running. And I think it's very, very healthy. So just Jump in the deep end of the pool would be my advice. Thank you.
John?
Hi, John Meyer from Community Board 5, Public Transit Committee Co-Chair. I'm hearing what you're saying about funding. I'd like to thank you for standing up to Albany and telling them we need our $500 million that disappeared. I really want to thank you for that. I want to thank the council member for her idea of looking creatively at a possibility for light rail. In that, we need the funding. The governor is saying congestion pricing is finally on the table. We need to be there for the conversation at least. What can we do to be there for that conversation?
Thank you. Excellent, excellent question. I'll be charitable to Albany and say they only stole $456 million. This one astounds me. I thank you for raising it. It is documented. No one disputes it. It's $456 million earmarked for the MTA, siphoned off to other state budget needs. Before anyone tries to raid the city treasury and city taxpayer money, Albany needs to give back the $456 million to the MTA, period. So thank you for standing up for that. On the congestion pricing issue, look, I've said very consistently, I have not seen a congestion pricing plan I can support. I've not seen one I think is fair to Queens and Brooklyn. I've not seen one that I think is not a regressive tax, in effect. Maybe it's out there. I've never seen it. The only way anything like congestion pricing happens is through the state legislature. So the way to be at the table is through your senators, your assembly members, and of course putting pressure on the governor as well. And I think that, look, there's not even a plan. If he has a plan, put it on the table. And if it's something that can be made an acceptable plan, great. But again, we don't even have a plan to begin with. In the meantime, I would argue people, if you're dubious about congestion pricing, then come over to the side that's calling for the millionaire's tax, because I think it is the single best alternative to congestion pricing. Thank you.
One more question?
Hi, my name is Lisa Pizzatola. I've been a teacher in this district, 24, for 18 years. And I have to commend you for the 3K and 4K pre-K programs. But I gotta be honest with you. After these children move up into kindergarten, these schools are very overcrowded in our district. Where are they gonna go?
Thank you. An eloquent question, and I appreciate it. We'll just say before I turn to Melanie LaRocca that, look, I thought what you were going to say is how are we going to keep supporting them when they get out of 3K and pre-K and keep building. And one of the most exciting things we're doing right now is we're trying to intensely increase the number of kids who are reading on grade level by 3rd grade. So we're putting a lot of extra investment and teacher time and additional teacher trainers and all sorts of things into doing that. But that's different than the space issue you raised, which is literally space. So, Melanie, in terms of this council district overall, how are we doing? And what do we have coming to address space needs overall?
Sure. So District 24, School District 24 is one of our more overcrowded districts in the city. However, in this council district, we've made some great progress, as the council member mentioned. We have an addition at PS 49, not too far away from here, that we just opened this September. And PS 49 has 333 new seats added to that school. We have an addition at PS 128, also not far from here as well, that we're opening in September 2020, and we're adding 440 seats there. So we do acknowledge that there is overcrowding here, and we are working hard to make progress on it where we have the opportunity. And we would love the support of our leaders in this room. If there are opportunities for additional school sites, please, we have brokers who are out there, but we need our community support, and we would happily follow up on any lead.
Thank you very much. We can do a few more. We got till around 9, so how about let's try 5 more and we'll call it a night. How's that?
Okay, well, we'll take
And then remember,
on this side.
well, one point, remember that at the end of the formal questions, all our wonderful commissioners will still be here.
Okay, I see two women on this side that I'm going to start with the woman with the darker red scarf.
Good evening, Mayor. I'd like to know where
A little bit closer.
I'd like to know where you stand on the live animal slaughterhouses in Queens, and in fact, all over the 5 boroughs. There are over 80 in this city alone. I'd like to know if there is any legislation on this topic moving forward to begin a ban on the slaughterhouses. They are a health risk to the communities that they inhabit. I live within 2 of my apartment, and I've seen firsthand blood and body entrails hosed out and onto the sidewalk in the gutters, which I think is potentially transmitting diseases. I'd just like to know if you have any thoughts on this whatsoever. But we don't appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Well, I want to get the health department over
Sure.
on part of this. So, again, I'm our Dr. Mary Bassett, our health commissioner, but before she goes, again, in the vein of trying to be always straightforward. So we've had a package of humane legislation that we've worked on, ending the wild animals and the circuses, putting sprinklers in, I mean, a whole host of things that we've been trying to move, and other things we hope to. I've got to be straightforward with you. This issue so far has not been one of the ones that's been a priority, but it's a very fair question. So I don't know the legislative state of play, but I do want to ask and we'll certainly follow up, my team will follow up with you directly on this. Nick will follow up. But sure. Commissioner, talk about if there are broader health concerns related and what we do about it.
Sure. Now, they're regulated by the state, ag and markets, as you know. But whenever there's a concern that there's a health risk to residents, we go and take a look. So we've gone and taken a look at them for many reasons, and I'd be happy to get the places that you're concerned about because we, you know, it's in New York, so we have some power, but we don't regulate them.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move over here. The lady with her hand straight up. Yeah.
It's me. Okay. Hi, thank you guys for your time tonight. My name is Joy. I live just down the road on Cooper Avenue. So I just have this written down anyway, so I'm just going to read it from here. After the contentious city council election that we just had this past November, your comments about our newly elected official Robert Holden came off a little flippant. So I'm wondering if you plan on partnering with him and remaining active here in Queens, even though you won't be working directly with Ms. Crowley anymore.
Thank you. I appreciate the question. It's a democracy, so thank you for asking a straightforward question. Clearly, look, working with Councilmember Crowley, we've gotten a lot done. And when you're working, you know someone and you share, a certain amount of views and the same party affiliation, yes, that does lead sometimes to greater comfort. But, I made very clear, I will certainly work with the new council member. I have worked with people in the other party, in the Republican Party, in the council for a long, long time, productively. I expect this to be a productive relationship, too. So, look, if my comments seem flip, it may because we're in a rather agitated moment in history, and a lot of us are feeling very strongly about the bigger issues about the two parties. But that does not mean on the day-to-day issues affecting the community that we don't have to put that aside. Obviously, I do believe in putting that aside and working together on community needs, and I will do that. Thank you.
Three more questions. So, gentleman in the back, with the white paper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, to be here in our community. My name is Mohan Gewali from Rizor. And I have two simple questions. The one is, there is...
Right, everyone's doing one simple question.
Sure. There is more than 60,000 Nepalese American in New York. So, but when we go to the DMV, there is no option for the second language. So can you option for the Nepali language in the DMV, please?
Well, I'll just say to you that we'll work with the DMV. The DMV is also run by the state of New York. Everyone needs a chart. This is all confusing to all of us, who runs each thing. But the DMV is run by the state of New York. But in terms of, Nick will follow up, I know you know Nick, to see what we can do to prevail upon the state to recognize that this is a language group that's got a lot of people in it here in the city, and we'll certainly work with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll circle back to this side of the room. I'll take a question from the back. There's a woman with a red turtleneck or scarf.
Hi, lifetime Glendale resident here. I know I see some familiar faces. So one of the major issues that I think affects our community here is the talk of these homeless shelters. I think we've kind of been tiptoeing around the discussion this evening. So not too long ago, they wanted to put a homeless shelter over on Cooper Avenue, right in the middle of our district. Now, fast forward, again, not too long ago, we started putting homeless in hotels. Now, yeah, I know, I heard some boo somewhere. I'm a fan of whoever did that. And so, as I'm standing here now, you talked about earlier on how this is a homeless crisis, we gotta do something. So can you stand here in District 30 and say that we're gonna stop putting homeless in hotels? It's not a viable option, it's not helping people. And I just wanna know, moving forward in the new election year, I know that you start a new term next year.
Yeah.
What's going to happen with that?
Okay, I got you. And I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to answer your question in good faith, but the question was actually the person next to you was the one who was being called on. So you'll go next. You'll go next. You'll go next. But let me answer this question first because it's a very important question. So, okay. We put out in the spring a plan for the entire city of New York. It was very clear. Over the next years, we need to leave the hotels entirely. It's a very tough mission, but it's the right thing to do. The hotels are not where we should be putting people. They're costly. They don't make sense. We don't have an option right now. Remember, we're under a legal mandate that if someone has shown that they're homeless and don't have another option, we got to give them some kind of shelter. That, you could argue, is a challenge, or you could argue it's a problem. I would say in defense of New York City that when you compare the situation we have to a lot of cities around the country, particularly on the West Coast, where they don't have that kind of mandate, huge numbers of people end up on the street. That's the last thing any of us wants. So we have the mandate. We got to live with it. But we do not want to do it through hotels. We want to get out of hotels. We do not want to do it through what's called cluster apartments, which are often not decent enough quality housing. We want to get out. Our vision that we laid out in the spring is to contract the shelter system steadily over years, but it will take a bunch of years. I'm not lying to anyone about how long it'll take. It will take a long time. We also want to rationalize the shelter system so that people are sheltered in their own community, which I think will be better ultimately for the whole city and certainly for the people who are suffering this reality. Again, the vast majority of them now, families, many of them working people. If you're from the Bronx and you get put in a shelter in Brooklyn, that's not good for anyone. You should be as close to home as possible. So we're going to try and rationalize the whole shelter system to be each borough has the amount of beds for people from that borough, right down to each community board, having a proportional amount for the people from that community board. So that's the vision. It will take time to realize, but ultimately, and we're starting to do it now, we have left some hotels. The goal is to leave all of them. Now to the colleague, to your neighbor next to you.
Thank you. So actually, I did have a homeless shelter question because the homeless shelter was supposedly going to be built on a brownfield, and this is not a place, or there's no infrastructure for that here. But since that question was sort of answered, and I hate to even say it again about the speed bumps, but it seems to be prevalent. But since we're right here on 88th Street, which you might have come down, it has turned into a speedway. Now, I understand they're putting traffic lights in, but as someone who lives here and walks on it multiple times a day, There are cars that race from one traffic light to the next traffic light. And it's really gotten out of control with the speeding, because now it's a race to get to the other light to make it. There are so many things that I see where people are almost being run over. I mean, I could just go on, but I think—
Tell me where do you think—
88th Street. So
between where and where? Give me where you think.
So it's on 88th Street, say the traffic light on Doran Avenue, and then that goes up to Cooper Avenue.
Okay, so
and then I do want to say, and just my one last thing was, I do want to thank all the police officers and any first responders who protect us, especially in our city and Glendale. I don't think that you get enough credit, and I just want to say to everyone, thank you so much for everything that you do.
Thank you. Both of you. So it turns out, and I just want to emphasize thank you for what you said, but to answer your question, one part of this is NYPD enforcement, which under Vision Zero, the order to NYPD is to greatly increase enforcement for speeding, for failure to yield, anything that could endanger people's lives. And when I say people, it's all of us, but it's especially our kids and our seniors. Those are the two most vulnerable populations in terms of traffic that's going too fast. So one part of this is what PD does. Another part of it is what Department of Transportation does, whether it's signals or all the other tools they have. So let's hear about, for that stretch, what each of you are doing.
Thank you very much for your support, by the way. I greatly appreciate it. My community affairs office is directly behind you. Given the times of the day where it's most prevalent, we'll take that information from you, and I'll make sure we have enforcement there in that area. Thank you.
And then on the DOT side, earlier this month, we met with the school on 88th. And then it is on our radar. We will be coming back to you in March with the safety plan. So we are reviewing it.
So one final question. We have the president of the CEC who's been patient. He's been raising his hand for a long time. So Dmytro Fedokovsky.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Liz. I want to thank you, Liz, for your time and your dedication to this district. We all benefit from it. Mr. Mayor, welcome. Welcome to Queens, the better borough. So, I am...
You know, because it's the holiday season, as a Brooklynite, I'm going to let that one go.
That's good. So, for the past 10 years, I've been a Community Board 5 member. For the past 14 years, I've been involved in school governance, whether it was on the CEC or the Queens Rep on the Panel for Educational Policy. So now I'm back on the CEC, and we did an extensive outreach to our schools in our district. We have 40 schools in the most overcrowded school district in Queens, School District 24. And we've done outreach to all 40 schools, and all 40 principals came back to us with their need in terms of pedestrian safety. More than 65% of our school communities lack sufficient crossing guards. The same number is with street markings and street signage. Now, we have been in contact with DOT, and DOT has been responsive, very responsive to us. They are looking at all of the information we gave them in the way of street markings and signage. But what we're not getting any traction on, and our report went out to all the local electeds, and I believe your office may have gotten it as well, is we're not getting any traction on hiring more crossing guards. And I understand the budget was expanded recently, but I don't see enough people being hired. I think the last class was 20, and we need way more than that just in District 24. And I know that every precinct doesn't have enough crossing guards as it is.
Okay.
So I'm wondering on the timetable.
Thank you. Very excellent question. Thank you. First of all, let's thank him for all the good work he's done on behalf of our kids. So the good news is, I mean, first of all, on the street markings and the other approaches to safety, the instruction now, again, this is what's good about Vision Zero. It's like it's the order of the day. Everyone understands, go and do everything it takes to achieve Vision Zero. So certainly in terms of DOT and DOE, if the community says, here's a place we want a speed bump, we need more markings, whatever it may be, we're going to go and try and get everything done we can get done. Sometimes, for example, on a bus route, you can't do a speed bump because buses can't handle it. Okay, I get that. There may be legitimate reasons sometimes we can't get everything that we ideally want. But this gets back to the earlier discussion of opening up the process for putting more safety measures in. I'm going to be very aggressive pushing my dear friends at DOT on this point because I think Vision Zero requires it to just keep going farther and farther, particularly around schools. There's a separate issue in Albany, as you know, where we could sure use everyone's help because the cameras around the schools make a big difference, and we need help in Albany. But from a DOT perspective, what I'd like to ask you to do is identify, since you're talking to all these schools, any school that wants additional safety measures. I need Nicole to work with you directly. I want to see the maximum done. Again, understanding sometimes there'll be legitimate specific problems, but the maximum done on the safety measures. On the crossing guards, the order I gave to the NYPD, Department of Education, Office of Management and Budget, is as much as it takes to fill every slot. So this is not only was some added to the budget, was literally whatever it takes to fill the slots. That's supposed to be the crossing guards, a reserve group, because we know people will be sick sometimes, supervisors, and a relationship with PD that if, God forbid, they have a gap one day, they would swing in precinct officers to cover when there's occasional gaps, right? So it's literally get us to maximum. To the best of my knowledge, and I want to ask all of the PD leadership, we're now, in a lot of places at least, at that maximum, and I'm literally not getting a request for any more crossing guards. Now, if you say there's some place you think deserves a crossing guard that's never had one, that's a fair question. And that should be assessed. And Chief, let me just ask you just one thing. In a situation, because I don't know the answer to this, in a situation where leaders in the community say there's not been a crossing guard here on this particular intersection, but more and more families are using it, how does that get assessed? Just let's answer that and then talk about the bigger.
We will go out, we'll take a look at it, we will assess it, and if the need arises, we will absolutely put a crossing guard or a police officer there. In terms of the second, I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, because we followed that order. We've hired several, speaking for Queens South, I'm speaking for right now, we've hired several crossing guards as well as supervisors. We have no vacancies as of right now in Queens South. We have supervisors and additional surplus officers, as the mayor, crossing guards, excuse me, as the mayor just spoke to. So right now, you know, if the location, I believe is in the 104. The 104 commander, he works for my counterpart. He's standing right next to me. He could come out, take a look at it. We can assess it and see if there's a need for it and get it done.
And one more while we're on this, just Inspector, will you speak to daily life in your precinct? Do you have the crossing guards you need? Talk about that so people can hear.
We do, sir. Thank you for your question, and I'll give you a solid answer. We have 53 crossing guards, 50 posts. If we're short on any given day, which usually we are, we do have 2 level 2 supervisors from crossing guards that cover those posts, and we also have police officers that cover those posts. If you do have a particular location which you'd like to give me, my community affairs officer, Charlie Sadler, is right behind you. Gladly take that information.
So it turns out he's still a captain, but I'm projecting his future.
Thank you.
I'm sure he'll be an inspector soon.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Again, I want to say to the council member, tremendous appreciation for years of great service to this community, and thank you, everyone, and very happy holidays.
Mayor, thank you, everyone, for being here.